Good evening, folks. For months now, the world has been fixated on one thing: the drone marathon. We've watched as Ukraine's long-range drones struck deep into Russian territory, hitting oil refineries and military factories. And while those strikes are incredibly significant, they've been a brilliant distraction. Because now, Ukraine has opened a second front, a new kind of war that is every bit as important, if not more so, the railway war. The nature of this conflict has changed. It's a strategic shift from hitting static, high-value targets to striking the very logistical arteries that feed the Russian war machine. To understand why this is so critical, you have to understand a fundamental difference between Russia and the West. Western militaries rely heavily on road transport, truck convoys, and highways. The Russian military, on the other hand, is built on rail. Their entire logistical system, from moving tanks and heavy artillery to bringing ammunition, fuel, and personnel to the front lines, is entirely dependent on trains. This makes their railway network their single greatest point of vulnerability. It's not just a means of transport, it's the lifeline of their entire military operation. This is FPV Explainer, where we break down the most fascinating stories in drone warfare. If you're enjoying this deep dive, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us what topic you want to see next. Your feedback shapes our future videos and keeps us bringing you clear, detailed analysis from the front lines. Now, let's talk about the how. This isn't just a one-off bombing or a random act of sabotage. This is a deliberate, highly coordinated campaign. What we saw on September 13th and 14th was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare, a textbook example of how a smaller force can use ingenuity to dismantle a larger enemy's logistics. This is about being surgical, not just destructive. Take the operation on the Oryol-Kursk railway line. This was a uniquely complex and terrifyingly effective mission. According to Ukrainian military intelligence, their teams planted mines on the tracks. But this wasn't about a simple explosion, it was a trap. Russian railway workers discovered the devices and, as expected, a specialized engineering unit from the National Guard, the Rosgarvia, was dispatched to the scene. The target wasn't just the railway, it was the personnel. During the attempted demining, a second, perhaps more sophisticated explosive detonated. It killed 2 Russian National Guard officers and gravely injured a third. This is a brutal but strategic blow. It's designed to not only halt rail traffic, which it did for over 15 trains, but to send a chilling message to anyone tasked with repairing and protecting these lines. It raises the human cost of the war for the Russians in a new and direct way, creating a psychological deterrent. It's an act of deep strike psychological warfare. Make no mistake, this is a calculated move to create a systemic breakdown. The Oryol-Kursk line is a vital supply route for Russian forces operating on the Kharkiv and Sumy fronts. By targeting it, Ukraine isn't just delaying trains, they're starving the enemy's frontline troops of critical supplies.
But the most spectacular attack of the campaign took place on the night of September 14th, far to the north. On the St. Petersburg-Pskov line, a powerful explosion derailed a locomotive and, critically, destroyed 15 fuel tankers. This isn't just a disruption, it's a catastrophic hit to Russia's fuel logistics. You have to understand the ripple effect here. Fuel is the lifeblood of a modern military. Tanks, armored vehicles, generators, and support trucks all need a constant, uninterrupted supply. By taking out a whole train's worth of fuel, Ukraine isn't just stopping one shipment. They are creating a logistical vacuum that will be felt up and down the supply chain, impacting offensive operations for days, if not weeks. The sophistication of these operations speaks volumes. This isn't the work of lone saboteurs. This is a clear demonstration of advanced intelligence and operational capabilities, likely executed by specialized units from the Main Directorate of Intelligence, GUR, and the Special Operations Forces, SSO. These are highly trained, highly coordinated teams that are now bringing the war directly to Russia's logistical heartland. The brilliance of this strategy lies in its asymmetric nature. Russia has a vast, sprawling railway network, but it cannot possibly protect every single mile of track. By choosing to attack key choke points and vulnerable targets like fuel trains, Ukraine is forcing Russia to expend immense resources on defense, stretching its National Guard and military police thin. It's a classic example of using a small, agile force to create a disproportionately large impact on a much bigger, more cumbersome adversary. This isn't just about blowing things up, it's about systematically dismantling the enemy's ability to fight a prolonged war. The ultimate goal of this railway war is not just to cause delays or destroy some material. The singular objective is to create a logistical collapse that will directly and profoundly impact Russia's ability to wage war on the front lines. This is where the strategic genius lies. Ukraine's intelligence and special forces didn't choose random targets. They chose specific, critical arteries. The railway line that connects Oriel and Kursk is one of the main supply routes feeding Russian forces pushing toward Kharkiv. And the line running from St. Petersburg south through Pskov is a key logistical lifeline for Russian troops operating in the Sumy region. By hitting these specific choke points, Ukraine is essentially cutting off the flow of blood to the enemy's offensive operations. Think about what this means in practical battlefield terms. A modern army is an organism that needs a constant flow of resources to function. It's like a person running a marathon who suddenly has their oxygen cut off. The direct consequences are devastating and immediate. Without a steady supply of ammunition, artillery batteries fall silent. When they can't fire back, Ukrainian forces gain a massive advantage. Without fuel, tanks and armored personnel carriers become nothing more than expensive, immobile pieces of metal, vulnerable to attack. And without new personnel, reinforcements, and fresh equipment, infantry units become undermanned, exhausted, and incapable of holding their ground, let alone conducting offensive maneuvers.
The ripple effect is what makes this so powerful. A single damaged section of track can create a backlog of dozens of trains, extending for miles. That's a logistical nightmare. It means that while the frontline troops are running out of supplies, the reinforcements they desperately need are sitting idle, hundreds of miles away, stuck behind a bottleneck. This not only weakens their combat power, but also crushes their morale. A soldier who knows that their supply chain is unreliable is a soldier who questions their ability to survive the next assault. They lose faith in their command and their ability to be resupplied, and that mental toll is often more damaging than any physical injury. This is fundamentally different from the strategy that Russia has employed against Ukraine. Russia has repeatedly targeted civilian infrastructure, power plants, water systems, residential buildings, in an attempt to break the will of the civilian population through terror. Ukraine, on the other hand, is employing a textbook military strategy. It is targeting the very nerve center of Russia's combat power, its logistics. This is a war of efficiency, not just brute force. It shows that Ukraine understands that to defeat a larger enemy, you don't need to match them man for man or tank for tank. You just need to cripple their ability to move, to supply, and to fight. The railway war is a cold, calculated, and highly effective way of doing just that, proving that in modern warfare, the most effective weapon is often not found on the battlefield, but in the most mundane, forgotten places, like a simple railway track. We've analyzed the strategy, the tactics, and the profound impact on Russia's war effort. But it's vital to remember that these operations are not without immense risk. This is not a video game. It's a high-stakes, high-risk, and deeply dangerous form of warfare. For every successful sabotage mission, there are extraordinary challenges and a very real price. First and foremost, there is the human cost. These are not drone pilots sitting in a secure bunker far from the front. The teams executing these operations are intelligence and special forces operatives, often working deep behind enemy lines. They are in hostile territory, in a nation with a vast internal security apparatus. Their missions require an incredibly high level of professionalism, physical courage, and operational security. They must move undetected, gather intelligence on railway schedules and security patrols, plant explosives with precision, and exfiltrate without a trace. The Rosguardia casualties we discussed earlier are a grim reminder of the dangers involved. But they also highlight the fact that Ukraine is willing to put its most elite forces at risk to achieve these strategic objectives. This is not an act of desperation, it's an act of conviction. The intelligence challenge is equally daunting. To pull off an operation like the one on the St. Petersburg-Pskov line, you don't just need a map. You need real-time, actionable intelligence. You need to know which trains are carrying fuel, where security is weakest, and when is the precise window to act. This is a testament to the strength and effectiveness of Ukraine's intelligence apparatus, which is clearly capable of operating within Russia's borders to a degree that few outside observers would have believed possible even a year ago. It's not just about planting a device, it's about a complex, interconnected web of reconnaissance, human intelligence, and analysis that must all align perfectly for the mission to succeed. The level of coordination required between the intelligence services, special forces, and the broader military strategy is truly a marvel of modern warfare. This brings us to a crucial point of comparison that defines Ukraine's strategy as a whole. Many people look at these railway attacks and wonder how they compare to the high-profile deep strike drone attacks on refineries. The answer is simple. They are two different sides of the same strategic coin. Drone strikes, like the ones we've seen on Russian refineries, are a powerful, long-term tool of economic warfare. Their primary purpose is to degrade Russia's ability to produce and export energy, hitting the Kremlin's wallet directly. The damage is often widespread and takes weeks or months to repair, but the direct military impact on a specific front is often indirect. A drone strike on a refinery near St. Petersburg will not stop a Russian tank from firing shells in Kharkiv today. Railway sabotage, however, is a tool of immediate operational impact. Its purpose is to create a physical bottleneck and a logistical collapse right now. When a train carrying ammunition and fuel for the Sumy front is derailed or delayed for hours, that immediately and directly affects the combat readiness of Russian troops in that area. It's a tourniquet, not a systemic poison. While it may not cause the billions of dollars of damage that a refinery strike does, its effect on a specific battle, a specific day, is far more tangible and immediate. This is the duality of Ukraine's strategy, using drones for the long-term economic war and using sabotage for the immediate tactical fight. In essence, these railway attacks are a high-risk, high-reward proposition. They require a level of skill and bravery that is humbling to witness. But by taking on these risks, Ukraine is able to achieve a level of direct, targeted disruption that is simply impossible with other weapons. It is an act that shows their determination, their ingenuity, and their understanding that to defeat a larger foe, you must not just outfight them on the front lines, you must outthink them in the shadows.